Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a really tough question. What happens when your effort to protect a child might actually be causing harm? We're going to follow a manager caught right in the middle of an ethical crossfire who has to choose between backing her staff and trusting the system. It's a tricky one. Okay, let's dive right in. Meet Janita. She's a manager in charge of safeguarding for a group of schools, and she's looking at the data. And wow, one thing just leaps off the page. One of her safeguarding leads, a guy named Martin, is referring cases to social services at a rate that's way higher than the average. We're talking a huge difference. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just about the number of referrals. It's about what happens to them. A massive 60% of Martin's cases result in no further action. Now compare that to the average of 35%. That's a pretty big gap, and it suggests Martin's threshold for what he considers a serious concern, well, it's a lot lower than everyone else's. And just like that, this isn't about spreadsheets and statistics anymore. This whole situation becomes a real-world, real-time dilemma. Martin flags a case for a Year 10 student named Aaliyah, and suddenly, Janita has to deal with this messy human problem head-on. So what's Martin so worried about? Well, he's connecting a few dots. Aaliyah's attendance has been patchy. She's been seen around town with some older guys. She's got money and new things that she can't really explain. And, her whole vibe has just changed. For Martin, you put all that together and it's screaming red alert. So Martin sends his concerns over to the local authority. But they see it totally differently. They look at the evidence and decide it just doesn't meet their threshold for a formal assessment. They basically send it back, saying the school should handle it with some early help. For Martin, who's convinced Aaliyah is in danger, this is a total non-starter. And boom, the problem lands right back in Janita's lap. Only now, it's not just a disagreement between Martin and one social worker. The whole thing is escalating, pulling in more people with more opinions, and Janita is stuck right in the middle of this professional storm. Now, to really get where Martin is coming from, you have to understand his philosophy. He carries the weight of a past case where a child was missed, and it completely shaped him. His personal rule is simple. I'd rather be wrong 10 times than miss one child who needs help, and he expects Janita to back him up on this, to help him fight for Aaliyah. Inside the school, though, opinions are completely split. The pastoral lead, who knows Aaliyah well, thinks Martin is catastrophizing what's basically just normal, if maybe a bit messy, teenage behavior. Then you've got the head teacher, who has a totally different concern. She's worried that if they keep crying wolf on cases like this, social services will stop taking them seriously when there's a child in genuine 5-alarm fire danger. And of course, there's the family. Aaliyah's mother is understandably furious. She feels her family has been judged and humiliated. The referral has completely destroyed any trust she had in the school, and now she's threatening to pull her daughter out altogether. A total mess. So what on earth does Janita do? She's got all these people pulling her in different directions. Well, instead of getting lost in the emotion of it all, she decides to take a step back. She's going to use a structured ethical framework to try and find some clarity in all this noise. The approach she chooses is called Deontological ethics. Now, that's a mouthful, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. It's a principle-based approach. So instead of trying to predict which action will have the best outcome, which is impossible to know, right? It asks a simpler question. What are my core duties here? What are the rules I absolutely have to follow? So Janita literally maps out her professional duties. And this isn't just about what she feels is right. These are concrete obligations that come from law, from policy, from her actual job description. Things like her duty to safeguard children, of course, but also her duty to support her staff, to maintain good relationships with other agencies, and to respect the family. But here's the thing. Applying this framework doesn't just give her a simple, clean answer. Nope. What it does is something much more valuable. It shines a massive spotlight on the fundamental conflict at the heart of her dilemma. And here it is. Look at how her duties pull her in completely opposite directions. On one hand, her duty to safeguard Aaliyah and her duty to support her staff, Martin, both point toward escalating the issue. But on the other hand, her duties to respect the family and to maintain a working relationship with social services, they both point to de-escalating. Her own professional principles are at war with each other. And this is maybe the biggest takeaway from this whole case. Using a framework like this is incredibly powerful for clarifying a problem. It forces you to see exactly where the ethical friction is. But, and this is a big but, it doesn't give you a magical rulebook for which duty wins. It defines the battle, but it doesn't fight it for you. So Janita's careful analysis leaves her and us with the most difficult question in all of child protection work. Everyone involved in this story, Martin, the head teacher, the social care team, even Aaliyah's mom, they all believe they're acting in the child's best interests. But when your core duties, your actual principles, are in direct conflict, what does it truly mean to do the right thing? That's the question we'll leave you with.